Alright, time for my honest thoughts on Gen 4. So, with Gen 4, we're going to be talking about Diamond and Pearl as well as Heart Gold and Soul Silver. And yes, you heard me right, I did not mention Platinum. So, if you're new here, first of all, welcome. And then, if you haven't seen my honest thoughts on Gen 2 video, I had mentioned that Crystal and Platinum were the only two of the mainline games I never owned. So, I can only really comment on Platinum as far as what I've heard about it. Can't really do more than that, because to this day I still have not played Platinum, although I would like to someday. But anyway, let's begin. So, this is probably going to be a pretty short one, because I'm not going to lie to you that Gen 4 actually almost took me out of the franchise. So, how did I get the game exactly? So, I will say that this game was definitely much easier for me to obtain because, see, when I mentioned Gen 3, I mentioned that, now they jumped to the Game Boy Advance. And at the time, I didn't own a Game Boy Advance, and I was too young to have a job to really fund a Game Boy Advance. Whereas at this point, I think it was about 19 when, I just turned 19 when Diamond and Pearl came out. And plus, by this point, I had already had a DS, so that wasn't a big deal. I just, work and get the game. So I got Diamond first, which, hey, that was the game I wanted. And, I played it, and, the time of day and night feature was back. I'm sorry, the day of the week and the time feature was back, but I don't know, it didn't really feel as intricate this time. It almost kind of felt like they just put it in there just to kind of, like, hey, we know you missed this from Gen 3, here you go. I don't really feel like it affected the game, at least not in the same way it did with Gold and Silver. Something I will say, though, I did prefer a lot of the new character designs over Gen 3. In fact, I'm going to say, as of the recording of this video, Dawn is still my favorite design for the female trainer, like the female playable trainer. In fact, actually, when I played Diamond and Pearl, or the remakes, I actually prefer choosing Dawn just because I like her design over Lucas's, or just overall. So I played the game, and I'm not gonna lie, so what took me out of it was, I felt like the pacing of the game could be really bad at times. I would say pacing, I meant like the speed of the game, like speed of surfing was like painfully slow. And sometimes I felt like there was a couple points in the game where it just seemed like it took forever between getting gym badges. And I mean, I know there's always been that in the game. Like, for example, in Gen 1, like between getting like your Soul badge and Marsh badge, you had to take down Team Rocket, so there was some of that. At least that I felt like was kind of more spread out. But yeah, I didn't like the speed. Also, so I know that the Sinnoh region is based off of the Hokkaido region, which is the most northern region of Japan. This is actually the last of the Japanese-based regions for now. So I understand it's more cold, more mountainous, but I feel like having only 2 fire types in the games was a little ridiculous. It was either you pick Chimchar, or you catch a Ponyta in the wild, which Ponyta's not really that great competitively anyway. At least I've never used one on a team. So that really sucked. I mean, honestly, that's a lot of why I picked Chimchar when I play the new games, just simply because I don't really want to use a Ponyta on my team. Although I will say, Infernape is an amazing Pokemon. I love its design. And it's just an amazing Pokemon overall to use. Because I don't know, I feel like they could have found a better way to incorporate more fire Pokemon. I mean, come on. If the last generation, Gen 3, was based off of more tropical climate of Japan, and they managed to find a way to put ice Pokemon in there, like, no reason they couldn't have put more than, 2 fire types in the game. And it's especially weird when you consider one of the Elite Four members is supposed to be a fire type specialist, and there's only 2 fire types in the whole game. So, what's up with that? And the evil team. So I actually do like Team Galactic better than like what we got with Team Magma and Aqua. Like I thought it was interesting how they wanted to like remake the world in their image. But I don't know. Sometimes sometimes the way they executed their plan seemed a little weird. Like I remember there was one point like where their whole goal is to steal honey. You know, like, yeah, really? Remaking the world in your image and stealing honey? I don't really see the connection there. So overall, was not a fan. I just didn't like the pacing, and I don't know if I was experiencing burnout from the series at the time or what. But definitely, yeah, I wasn't a fan of the pacing, the lack of variety of Pokemon. Oh, because that was another thing I want to mention. A lot of the new Pokemon, like something I did not like, was that like we got a lot of new evolutions for Gen 1 Pokemon, and I really don't like a lot of their designs. I feel like most of the designs are just really fat, ugly versions of like Gen 1 Pokemon. I think the only one that like is kind of okay with me is Rhydon's evolution. Rhyperior, I think was his name. And also like I feel like they added some kind of like trifling ways to evolve the Pokemon, like you had to trade them using an item. Which I mean, I know Gen 2 did that, but I don't know, this just kind of felt kind of obnoxious and arbitrary. So I wasn't a fan of. Oh, and then some of the post game content. So one of the major new Pokemon they promoted with Diamond and Pearl was the new evolutions, which was Glaceon and Leafeon. Well, it sucks when you don't get an Eevee until after you've beaten the Elite Four, which at that point, you know, it was already kind of a struggle to get through the game. Now I really don't want to level up an Eevee to get Glaceon or Leafeon, and what am I going to do? Just play the Elite Four again? Although I will say that this generation of Pokemon, because we had the DS, it actually did have online capabilities, so that was a major saving factor. I actually feel like that brought a lot of old fans back into the game, so I was happy about that. And something else that was kind of neat was that actually, like when you did online battling, you could actually use the microphone to talk to your opponent. I thought that was actually kind of neat. I remember I had a friend from Georgia who had the game, and I was in Virginia, and it was pretty cool. We were talking through our DSs like we were having a phone conversation while we battled. That was really neat. Um, but yeah, I will say I have gone back and played them since then. Like I'm talking about original Diamond and Pearl, and I will say they are a lot better than I remember. I don't know if I was just a jaded 19-year-old at the time, but they're definitely better than I remember. Oh yeah, another thing I did not like about the games was there was way too many HMs. I mean, I think there was anywhere from 8 to 10 HMs. I can't remember, but it's like, yeah, do we really need all these? And believe me, when we get to Gen 7, I'm going to talk about how the ride Pokemon was something they should have always done, because HMs I felt was a very flawed system. But like I said, we'll talk about that when we do Gen 7. Um, so, like I said, Platinum I did not play, but I will say, from what I understand, I think they listened to a lot of the complaints from Diamond and Pearl. Because I heard that the speed of the game increased. Like, for example, surfing speed improved. I think there were more fire types added. In fact, the Elite Four member who was supposed to be the fire type specialist, I heard he actually had fire types these time around, like not just one. Um, so I definitely think they listened. Um, then of course I know Giratina was the title legendary from that one. You know, once again, I definitely want to go back and play Platinum someday. Like, just because, like I said, I never had the chance to play it back then. So now let's talk about Heart Gold and Soul Silver. So kind of like with Fire Red Leaf Green, I don't feel like I'm gonna really add a whole lot to this that I didn't really add, say in Gen 2, for example, with this one. So I did like these. I definitely remember reserving it, Soul Silver when it came out. I did eventually get both, but I reserved Soul Silver, and I remember playing it when I got off work that day, and it was really fun to kind of enjoy Johto through a new lens. Um, so funny enough, there's actually a lot of things about Gen 2 that I thought were kind of disappointing. Um, I say a lot, a couple things. For one, I really didn't like. Now, this one, I really didn't like the new character designs. I feel like they kind of made the designs a little more childish. I mean, Gold's the main character. His design didn't change that much, but I wasn't a fan of some of the other ones. I don't know. See, like one of the things I loved about Gen 2's designs. See, Gen 2 felt like a more mature game. I'd love to know what other people feel on that statement. Like, I feel like with Gen 2, it's like they knew a lot of us were returning, and of course, we were 3 years older than when we played Red and Blue. So they kind of like aged the game with the player. But it was also not so mature that a new player couldn't get into it. So I didn't like the new designs. At least a lot of them. Yeah, like the two Rocket executives you fought, I really feel like they uh, dumbed down their designs. Like I remember in Gold and Silver, like they looked super intimidating, and I didn't really get that vibe this time around. And also, I didn't really like what they did with the rival. Um, like I feel like Silver in the original Gen 2, like he actually felt like an evil guy. Like he really felt like just a bad guy overall. And I feel like, well, I will say they did give him some character development in the remakes. Like he actually grew into a good person, which was cool. But I felt like for the main part of the game, I feel like they just dumped him down from a bad kid to like just a jerk who hates to lose. I was not a fan of that. Um, but overall, it was still nice to revisit Johto again. And I did like that you could rebattle the gym leaders. There was like certain times of the day, unfortunately, because of my work schedule, I could never do it. But I know there was definitely times of the day you could battle them. And of course, there was still the battle with Red on top of Mount Silver. And this time around, so someone refresh my memory. I think you actually could get a Kanto and a Hoenn starter in this game. I think if it was like right before Red, I think you could actually go meet Steven at the Silphco building and he would give you a Hoenn starter. And I think Professor Oak actually gave you a Kanto starter. I think that was like right before you took on Red or something like that. So someone correct me on that if I'm wrong or not on that one. But, I am sure Gen 2 will eventually get another remake. When? I don't know. But I'm kind of interested to see what they do with it if that actually comes to fruition. So overall, Gen 4, like I said, almost took me out of the franchise overall. Actually, before I rank them, so I actually have kind of a funny story about Gen 2. I'm sorry, Gen 4. Um, so the summer before these came out, I had actually done like a little foreign exchange in Japan. And my friend's host family, I became really cool with them. And they had told me their son was not doing well in school. I think he was about 7 at the time. But he wasn't doing well in school, and they told him if he didn't get his grades up, he wasn't going to get the new Pokemon game. So I actually told his mom, I said, hey, look, if he gets his grades up, I will buy the game for him. Well, he got the grades up, so I actually ordered a Japanese version of the Diamond version, I believe off Amazon, and once it arrived to my house, I sent it right back to Japan. And then their son emailed me back and said thank you. That was a pretty cool memory. So where would I put Gen 4? I think as of right now, I think I would probably put it. We're gonna go ahead and say rank 6 for right now. Like I said, this one I definitely think is subject to change. But yeah. So stay tuned as we talk about Gen 5. Uh, you know, coming up, and I will catch you guys next time.